Boom. Look at that. All right, people. We are live. We are live. Base man, I've been trying to get you on for a while. Just I've been busy or things haven't been like right between in terms of like you've had work, I've had work. But finally, we're able to arrange it. Here we are. How are you? And if anyone is unaware, floor is on you. Do you want to tell them what you do on here? Channel is pinned in the chat, by the way, as well, for anyone who wants to go over and give my boy a subscribe.
Yeah, I mean, look, like you said, we've had our time differences, but everything happens when it's supposed to, and as they always say, nothing before it's time. So thank you very much for having me on the channel. Yeah, so essentially I've got my own channel which I started about 16 months ago. I'm trying to get up to that first 1,000 milestone. You know how things are. It's not the easiest, especially during the start. But the one thing that I actually do like is before I used to get happy when I had a video that just did just about 100 or more. Now I'm disappointed when anything is under 130. So it's moving in the right direction.
I was like you back in 2019. It'd be like if I saw it 100, I'd be like, yes. Now it's like an hour and it's only 100. Like that's bad. That's BS. An hour and only 100 views. You see it. It happens. It's just the more you grow and thing, the kind of less impresses you. That's the kind of thing. But it's still it's fun. You're at about what 770 now. So hopefully this will get you closer to the 1,000 mark.
I mean, I'm hoping. I haven't checked it in the last hour, but the last time I checked it, it was 7 something. So I mean, it's still moving, which is
Still moving.
Got a big up Ade for that. Obviously, Chris Andre, who's helped me as well. Now yourself,
mate. I know how hard it is. My first 1,000 was the worst because it seems like it's almost there, but so far away. Yeah. You know, I think for me, from 800 to 900 just went an eternity, and you're just like praying for news that can just speed it up. But now, once you hit the 1K, it's like that's that one kind of thing off your back, and you don't really start feeling it until you get closer to 5K. Because that's kind of how I've kind of felt like since when I wanted 10K, it was like, oh please, just let me get 10. Now I have it. It's like I barely check how much the sub fee goes out because like I've done what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
I'm happy for the time being.
No, I hear that. I mean, it makes total sense. And like I said, I'll get there soon, and then hopefully I can do more of these cross promotions with people.
Yeah, I mean that's the plan. That's what I'm trying to get more you guys on. You know, I mean, I love Chris, love Jamie, love all them, but I don't want to have the same people on constantly. I want to branch out, get a few more guys on. You know, people like yourself. You know, obviously we tried it before, but time difference, work commitments, and stuff like that haven't helped. But now we're here, and it's get a few new faces on here because there's plenty of up and coming channels like yourself who do a lot of great things. And in a way, I don't mean to sound disrespectful, but kind of don't get the recognition they deserve. Yeah, you know, when you upload a video and it's like 150, it's like it's a good video. What is it? You know, stuff like that. So appreciate you coming on. Now we got to talk about boxing. That's what we came here for. So obviously, the big thing from the last week has been this whole situation. Tyson Fury, Oleksandr Usyk. This is going to be the one we'll kick it off with, the big one. Undisputed at heavyweight. It's the fight we all want. First undisputed fight since 1999 when Lewis fought Holyfield in the rematch. For a fight that seems so close, it seems to me one side is making this very difficult to get this over the line. Do you think that's fair?
I would say that's fair, yeah.
And I think we both know who the one side is.
We do.
We do. I liken this. I told my mate who does the thumbnails this. It reminds me of a schoolyard bully who's just sees someone as like, I want to get a reaction out of him. So I'm going to keep saying this and this and this just to try and get a reaction. So, I'm taking this off you. Okay, yeah, have it. I don't want it. All right, well, now I'm going to take this. Now I want this. Yeah, well, I wasn't going to have that anyway. Oh, God damn it. He's not making it. Constantly looking for a reaction and not getting it. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're in this mess is that Fury looking to kind of try and be the bully of the two and try and say, well, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this. And when Usyk keeps accepting, it's just like, God damn it. If this was someone else, they'd be reacting. If it was Wilder now, you can only imagine the reaction he'd give.
If it was AJ, you could imagine the reaction between him and Eddie Hearn. That would be, by now, it would have all blown up everywhere, every interview. And you'd be like, yeah, I'm in their head. I got them. All right, cool. Let's do it. Now they're rattled.
Yeah. With Usyk, it's not that. what do you think is going to happen? What do you think long term? Do you think we're going to get this fight April 29th or at all?
April 29th, no. I can't
Yeah.
see it happening April 29th. At all, potentially. I see a scenario where I said it before. I see a scenario where something's going to happen, contract's not going to get signed, and then the WBA are going to say, okay, we've had enough. Like, now you got to fight this mandatory. You'll find out that maybe the mandatory is not ready due to injury or whatever, because I think Dubois is still actually
Oh,
out with
yeah.
injury. That's what I've heard. I even heard that yesterday when I was at the Sky
It was
Sports.
a ligament, and that's a serious
Yeah,
one.
exactly. And they said it was supposed to take 6 months to heal by itself, and it has not been 6 months yet.
Yeah.
So they may then have to basically move their rotation. In that rotation, they might have to move off of their spot, which means that then IBF, Philip Hergovich, Fury will then go and do his tune-up thing that he likes to do, and then possibly you might get at the end of the year. One thing Krashuk did say that Usyk will satisfy a mandatory. He will do that if he has to. But I know that Usyk only wants Fury and Wilder as the next two fights at heavyweight. He basically wants the three-headed monster, Joshua, Fury, Wilder, and I think that's what he's after. So ultimately, if he doesn't get that after that first mandatory, I think he might call it a day. He might say, okay, cool.
Yeah, it sounds to me like he's got one foot out the door. Just even after AJ, it's like he has his idea of what he wants. And I'm sure for him, he feels like he deserves to be able to, say, look, I want to fight these. I've done it the hard way, which he has. Cleaned out a division, which was, you could argue, was at its strongest in God knows how many years. And I just think that just the way it's been handled, how anyone could actually go and defend Fury at this stage is just beyond me. And the weirdest thing is, right, when Krasok gave that interview last Thursday before we started hearing talk of 70-30 and saying, look, the fight's not looking likely, you had people bizarrely celebrating as if this was a great thing. You're proclaiming your guy the best in this era and the best of his generation, or possibly all time, and you're happy he's not fighting someone who's claiming the same thing?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
To me, I would, if I was Fury, if I was supposed to be the man, I would want to clean out the division, make sure that there's no pretenders to my throne. There's no one that can question it. But it's almost like Fury and a lot of his fans are just happy to have the narrative that he's the best without having to prove it. Well, I can beat him, so why do I need to fight him? Well, we need to see that you can beat him, because it's just words.
It's just words. They think you're going to beat them. Okay, well, there's very different between thinking something's going to happen and it actually happening.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that his fans give him that pass, for him, it's a case of, well, they're going to support me anyway. So, like, I have carte blanche to do whatever I want. It's different if they were the ones who were saying, oh, hang on a minute, we love you, but this can't fly. Different, but he's not getting that.
Well, he's getting. You say it's different, but when you've got someone like Simon Jordan who's called him out on it now, even Gareth A. Davis, to a degree, has, all of a sudden he's backlashing at them, and they're his biggest supporters. So I just don't think I don't think he registers it properly, that no, if these people no longer support me, I'm not going to be the star that I should be or I want to be. So
we've seen Sugar Hill with Tyson Fury, though. I mean, I know he's obviously over here for Lawrence Okoli. That's the main thing. But does that kind of give you a little bit more kind of optimism, per se, that, okay, we're not going to see it probably in April, but that he's over here to work with Fury as well, to at least get him ready for something?
Well, yeah, I mean, Frank Warren said that he was definitely going to fight on the 29th regardless. Now, all right, if they can get something signed, I've seen that this fight gets pushed to June. I'm not sure if I told you, Bruce Trampler from Top Ranks had a tweet out the other day that said, oh, we're getting things ready for June. It's great that they're getting it all together. He deleted those tweets. So clearly someone's told him, what are you doing? Like, that's not, that's not what we want to be promoting right now. But people got the screenshots, so people have seen that was the plan. So I can only imagine that, if Sugar Hill's over here now, the end of March, June, that's a good 10 to 12 week camp. It makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. I think the very notion that this is going to happen in April, it might have happened if this hadn't been such an issue going back to January, February. But I think now with everything, and the worry I have for it happening in June is that Tyson Fury having another moment where he digs his heels in and causes more just annoyance, more pussyfooting around with this whole contract situation, or potentially breaches the contract. And it's just like, what do we do? We're back to square one again. And, you know, just, the Fury fans saying that what he's doing is legitimate, right? It's okay. He's a big star. Basically, the guy's giving him a pass, right? I asked them, if this was Anthony Joshua versus Oleksandr Usyk, the first fight, and Joshua and Hearn were making these outrageous demands, they'd be the very ones up in arms saying, how dare Joshua do that? He's a disgrace. Fury would never do that.
And Fury would be the ringleader.
Oh, yeah, he'd be the one just encouraging it. I'll fight him for free.
Phone everything. So, but look, we know in life in general, like contradictions, hypocrisy is rife. So sometimes you just can't really get triggered by it. Yeah, it can be annoying, but you just have to say, all right, you know what? Because I know this is going to happen, let me just do my best to almost out of sight, out of mind until we get the result that we want. But I feel like with regards to this whole situation, realistically, all right, whoever's going to think Fury's right to do what he's done is going to think he's right to do what he's done. But from the majority kind of know how things are. You just have to believe that, you know, sense will prevail in the long run.
Exactly. Hopefully it does, you know, because I like this fight. I do. Like, I think that it's interesting. You know, you hear people like Alan Babbage say Fury's injured or has had a lot of injuries in camp and he's not the same. And looking at it for me, like I look at it and I would say, like, Fury firing on all cylinders, he should be Usyk. But I don't know that. I know Usyk, pick against him at your detriment. You know, I've made that mistake against Anthony Joshua, picking Joshua to beat him. And I've been left with egg on my face, so to speak. So that's why I want to see it. You're talking about the two number one guys in the division. And will it lead to a great fight? To be honest with you, probably not. You normally don't get an amazing, like, you know, blood and guts, Gatti Ward style fight with the two best, but it's always compelling viewing.
I was about to say, yeah, like it may not be amazing in terms of action, but you're going to be on the edge of your seat for the whole thing, wondering who's going to make that first mistake or how is that mistake going to end up costing them the fight kind of thing. And you almost be playing out those scenarios in your head. So, yeah, I mean, just like you, I think just like most of the chat, like I really want this fight, and whoever wins, I will have no gripes with saying is the greatest of this generation and previous generation. And if Usyk happens to pull it off, then all-time great discussions have to be had in terms of 2 times undisputed in 21 fights. I mean, that's unheard of in male boxing anyway.
It's completely unheard of. I mean, to think that Usyk, you know, the comparison between him and Holyfield, you know, and Holyfield, it's just, I love Holyfield. I'm a Holyfield fanboy, I'll admit that. But he went to heavyweight. He needed, what, 5 or 5 fights? I know he fought for Cooper Worth defense, but he had a couple more. He had way more fights than Usyk at heavyweight before he went in with James Buster Douglas. And Douglas, no disrespect, is not Anthony Joshua.
Nope. And Usyk, obviously, he went to cruiserweight undisputed quicker than Holyfield with 1 extra belt. So, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Again, I am one of the biggest Evander Holyfield fans. You know, his trilogy with Riddick Bowe was legendary stuff. And, you know, the 2 fights with Lennox Lewis. He's like the definition of a road warrior and the definition of that small man, that little man that can. Because he's basically Usyk in this situation. Everyone he took on was basically bigger than him, and he found ways to win and survive and get through. So, yeah, Usyk being put up into that same pedestal and stratosphere. I mean, yeah, I'm 100% for that. And again, that when you come to that best heavyweights ever run, okay, he may not be able to get into the upper echelons just because he hasn't had all of his fights or the majority of his fights at heavyweight, but you can definitely have an argument for him top 15 all time.
Oh yeah, 100%. And as you said, whoever wins this fight, they are going to get nothing but praise because they deserve it. But I think it's getting to that point is the hard part.
You know, the one thing that I'm concerned about if it goes to June, if we remember, Usyk's been in a training camp of sorts since December. That's a damn near 7-month training camp. Now, I know he probably wouldn't be like going ham all the time, but from we hear that he has been training 3 times a day since I think February. That could just be a lot of overtraining. He could just overshoot things, and that's where the issue is. So that's why I would much rather, if it does happen, it happens sooner rather than later, so both guys have the best possible chance. And ultimately, if people say, "Oh, well, 5-6 weeks isn't enough for Tyson Fury to train," well, he should have been training from after the Derek Chisora fight, because we was told Chisora is on December 3rd because Usyk is the last weekend of February or the very first weekend of March. That's what we were told. So there's no excuse for you to have not been in a training camp of sorts for all of this time
Yeah,
outside of unprofessionalism. So if you're undercooked, that's your problem.
exactly. Like training or something just ticking over before the real stuff starts. There's no reason why that shouldn't have been happening. So I agree with you 100% there. Look, I'm just going to say, I reckon this fight will happen, but I'm like you, April 29th. If it had been announced last week, that probably would have been too little notice. So I'm looking probably as well, probably end of May, start of June kind of time. But I really, as I said, don't care as long as we get this fight. That's all. That's all I want. I just want Undisputed at heavyweight, because we've seen Undisputed at a lot of different weight divisions, but that's the one where it's needed more. So especially, we never had one in the 4 belt era. We've never even had an Undisputed fight even come close to it, really, in the grand scheme of things. This is the closest we've come in 20 plus years, 23 years. It's crazy.
It needs to happen. And obviously, you know, the heavyweights is the glamour division. It's unfortunately it is the most popular and the most important division in boxing, because it produces the most excitement for the casual fan. So if things don't happen at heavyweight, the success doesn't trickle down to the other weights afterwards. So it does need to happen.
That's why we need the heavyweight division firing on all cylinders. And I think we have, for the future, a lot of brilliant talent at heavyweight. Your Andersons, your Atumas. You know, I'm not really 100% sold on him, but I know Adelaya, a lot of people like him. I'm still kind of a bit on the fence.
Torres Jr. That's my
Richard
favorite.
Torres.
Him and Anderson. Those are my favorite prospects right now.
Moses Telma, we need to see a good bit more of him.
Yeah, I mean, we can't judge much from his professional run off of his debut, but the skills is there. So I feel like he's got a very high ceiling. But again, a lot of the time we can't judge people based off potential. We've got to see it in the ring. And I just hope he gets out enough time so that he gets the progression he needs to keep moving and firing on all cylinders.
My worry for him is I interviewed him last month, and he said I wasn't aware of this. He only had 24 amateur fights.
Yeah.
That was the worry. I just assumed he had more, judging by how he looked, but that was kind of, when I heard that, I was kind of like, I was taken aback. Kind of when I said it, I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting the 100 or something. Yeah. So that's the worry I have there. But he's out on the Joyce Zhang card, and he's out on the Telford card as well. The Heaney Flaherty too. Flaherty too. So he's getting out.
That card as well. I was supposed to go to it, but yeah.
That's going to be a good fight. That's going to be a good fight. Nathan Heaney brings an atmosphere, if he doesn't bring anything else. In terms of some of the things that have been happening over the last few days, so there's been a lot of things in the world of kind of boxing in terms of promoters, deals happening. In the last 24 hours, we had Joshua Buatsi leave the DAZN and Matchroom to go and sign a deal with Sky. At the same time, a day later, the DAZN have announced, is it 948 will be their channel on Sky.
427, I think. 427. Yeah.
So the DAZN have actually now got a station on Sky Sport. Well, on Sky, not Sky Sports. They have a station. Now, first off, that's brilliant, because it means then that the whole issue, which it was an issue, of getting the DAZN into pubs and places like that, you know, where people can see some of these big fights. You know, you've Anthony Joshua fighting, but a pub can't stream it. That's sorted.
Yeah.
But Buatsi with Sky, when I heard that originally, I was kind of like, I like Dan Aziz. I think he's tremendous, but that's really the only fight I can see at Sky. Whereas I could see Smith, Beterbiev, Canelo, Berlanga potentially on the DAZN.
Yeah. I mean, it's when I was listening yesterday, just from a pure visibility standpoint, I understood some of his arguments. Because from some of the numbers I heard, like there was like sort of sub 30K watched the live broadcast of him and Craig Richards. That's a rumor I heard. So I'm looking at that and I say, okay, well, we know that the lowest numbers you'll probably get on Sky is maybe 150, 200,000 after the football, which is when they always show their
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
So you could say, okay, well, if I get that visibility and I'm pretty much he's in a mandatory position at this moment in time anyway, because he's number one in the WBA. Dan Aziz is number two. Now, Dan might leapfrog him over to become number one because he's just fought. But either way, because they're both neck and neck, you could then say, all right, well, worst case scenario, have one or two fights, make sure that he's active, build up the platform, build up the profile. Because it's Sky, you can maybe entice a champion to come over because it's on a big platform. You probably get, a better payday from it.
Yeah.
So you look at it on that perspective and you say, okay, yeah, I can see where it might make sense. But then, as you just said, all of the big names are on DAZN, or they're on Top Rank in the US. So then it's like you've almost taken yourself from being what they used to say, like a whale in the ocean, to being a big fish in a small pond. Because again, as you said, Dan Aziz is the only other viable name you've got there. And I can't really see Sky having put as much time as they have into Dan recently, just wanting to make that fight straight away. So you're not even going to get that fight for now.
Yeah.
Unless you're just both massively active. So yeah, it just looks like it's going to be either a lot of tick over fights, or you're going to have to be trying to bring people off platform to come and to come and fight him, which is just a lot of that could end up being a hassle. There's probably going to be a lot of European or Eastern European names to tick over that none of us have heard of for into the next 2 or 3 fights, unless they can manage to do some kind of cross promotional thing with, I don't know, maybe Lou DeBella or someone like that, and then see if they can get that Jean Pascal fight reenacted or something. But even he's fighting today, so I don't see that happening in the near future either. So it's a weird one in terms of who you're going to fight. That's the problem.
Yeah, that was the thing. That was my logic behind it, because I was like, well, like realistically, like if you don't want the world title fight, there's other options there. But like, you're out on May the 6th, but like it's not going to be Dan Aziz. It probably won't be Jean Pascal. Like who realistically is it going to be? And I think one of the complaints we had about Boazzi was I felt that there was more potential there that's not being tapped into. I've always felt that, and it's like the way he's been brought slowly along. He's only had 2 fights in the last 2 years. He's had the Craig Richards fight and the Bolotniks fight. And I thought that coming off the Bolotniks fight, he could have pushed on and maybe had the Richards fight earlier and then straight into another one. But I think that's been a frustration. And if he's gone to Sky now, it's going to be much more the same. Like realistically, like that for me is just like, well, the one gripe we have, you're just exasperating it now, because who are you actually going to fight? And I'm not willing to see someone who I believe has the potential to just be, fed this guy, and then maybe in a year's time they'll give Dan Aziz for a European title, not even a world title.
Yeah, I mean, the only good thing he said at the press conference, which I want to hold him to, is that he said he's going to be active. He's looking to fight 3 times this year. So even if they're not 3 great opponents, just to be active, get back in the swing of things, because then we can give you 9 months now to do whatever. But then from next year, or from the end of this year, there's absolutely no excuse. There's no time off in terms of like there's no I can't take this fight right now. We can't have any injury unless it's visible broken bones or whatever. Like no injuries, no niggles. We just got to kind of go push on and get it cracking, because you have had a lot of time to kind of get to where you need to. And if you think about it, I think in a way he has to kind of feel some type of way that he was the most lauded one within that 2016 Olympic team, the one that probably was going to do, and he's the only one that's never tasted a world title or challenged for one. So that to me has to make you say to yourself, I am behind, so I've got to now step it up. I can't have any more setbacks or issues or whatnot. I don't think Virgil Hunter is the right choice of coach, if I'm honest, but that's who he's chosen, so he's with it.
I like Virgil Hunter as a coach, but I think the more you look at it, the more he needs a specific style, I should say. Like, your Andre Ward is able to mold, he's able to take him from the amateurs, but I don't think that works with with the way Joshua Boazzi is, and I don't know who you'd really get to train him now at this stage. Maybe a McGuigan or someone like that if he wanted to base himself back in the UK. And I agree. I hope to God he is active. I hope to God that that's not just front to say, oh, yeah, look, I'll be active and I'll have 1 fight this year, 2 fights next year. No, if he wants, there's conceivable. You could get 3 fights, injuries, not taking into consideration. You could get 3 fights in this year. I'd like to see that.
I mean, that's my hope.
They did. I think it was Virgil Hunter did say he needs another 2 fights. He felt after the Richards fight, well, here's your chance. 2 fights in this year, and then boom, we should be able to go straight into the deep end next year.
Yeah. I'm in agreement with that. Can't complain.
Yeah. In terms of the DAZN moving, well, not moving, but in terms of the DAZN getting the Sky, well, not a Sky deal, but they are on now as the Sky platform. What are your thoughts on that? Now, do you think that it's good in the sense that it's given us the pubs, like we can get it to post, but do you think there was a kind of case of that's been in the pipeline, but what Craig Richards kind of was, or not Craig Richards, what Josh Boazzi was saying kind of forced their hand to bring it out a bit sooner?
Yeah, it was definitely in the works. And because they had been saying for a while that they were looking to get into pubs. They was working on a deal of sorts for that. Now, I think I was thinking it was going to be via Virgin Media because that was some of the rumors I heard, and they may still end up having one on there. But it looks like they had all of this in place. But I guess maybe with the whole Joshua Boazzi on the app, all the, you don't have to download that app and give it. I think all of that maybe made them say, okay, well, we was going to do it maybe next week anyway, or we was going to just hit it up on, they was probably going to do it day and date. So on the actual Thursday, boom, we're now on channel. You can find us right there. And then because of that, like, oh, okay, well, we can't have the narrative being that we can't get so there's no visibility. So how about that? Now we're on the same platform that you're frequenting. Almost like a, it's like a response. You used to have diss tracks and everything. That's their response to the initial track. And yeah, I mean, the only problem with it is I think the fact that because of how they did the initial price hike stuff, it just looks like a lot of their marketing and strategies are just a bit scatterbrain at the moment. They're all over the place. They don't seem to be in sync with each other, and now people are confused about, well, I've just done an annual subscription, how can I get this? Because I sometimes I don't want to stream, I want to be able to watch it on the TV. Like, what's going on? So yeah, I think there should have been more cohesion between a lot of their rollouts, but I know sometimes things happen and you just gotta roll with it. You
gotta make hay while the sun shines, so to speak, because that's the kind of thing I was confused at myself when I was looking at it. I was like, well, that would work out good for me doing a watch along because I don't have to worry about buffering just in case. And then I'm like, oh, but I still have to use the app because of this package. And I was kind of like, all right, this is, you're not making it easy. You're not making it easy. But look, I think, as we said, the accessibility has been a thing that a lot of people have mentioned in the past about it. And I think that this is one step to erasing that, which is a good thing as far as I'm concerned.
Definitely. It needs to, every step you can have to stop problems and find solutions is always a great thing. So now we're going to have it terrestrially here for the people who can have it that way. Like I said, it's going to be in pubs, clubs. There's not going to be any excuses on that. So you'll definitely get more traffic and footfall and like subscriptions and people buying when the big events happen, and they'll have visibility of it. Hopefully that will lead to more maybe promotional stuff outside of the app where people can find things more for the casuals than the people that have obviously paid for the actual sporting content. And then it's still a channel that you have a global visibility, which is the one thing that Sky Sports doesn't have. It's a major, the biggest platform here, but in terms of global reach, they don't really get they don't get the same trade with Top Rank and ESPN that they do with Sky over here. So I just feel like every time you eliminate a barrier, hopefully your business plan and your marketing thing works out in the long run. And we knew that the DAZN wasn't planning on making money to start off with. Like, it was going to be a long-term process before they started to see a return on investment. But it looks like now, at least, even though they've done it, a lot of it in the wrong way, and it's pissed a lot of people off, they've at least got things in place to maybe moving forward be able to eliminate a lot of the issues that people had.
Well, yeah, as you say, Netflix lost a lot of money in their first couple of years, as too did Sky. So no one very few anyway, unless they've got some powerful friends, hit the ground running and make a profit straight away. Yeah. I just want to big up to Mark. Big up. We all know who Mark is. Big up at G and big up Base. Thanks for the £5, mate. I appreciate that. We miss you on here, mate. We do. We miss you on here. Some news broke today, and actually, when I seen it, I just, you know, when you see something, you just think you can't write this. You actually can't write this. I think you know where I'm going with this, don't you? Adrian Broner was meant to have a fight in February. With is it BLK is how you say it?
BK Prime. Yeah.
BK Prime. Didn't happen. All right, didn't happen, obviously. And okay, so he said he's a free agent. So who does he sign with? Does he sign with his own Golden Boy? Did he Hearn? No. Does he go back to Floyd? He somehow finds Don King and decides that's going to be a good move, and has a picture of him and Don King with a table full of money, which is just a recipe for disaster right there. There's a saying, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. What are your thoughts on that?
The only thing I can think of is that Don King has offered him some insane deal in terms of just an initial cash up front he's kind of seen, but he hasn't read all the small print in that contract.
Isn't that what Vanis Martirosyan happened to him?
Yeah.
There's exactly. 400 grand. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Okay. But now you owe me that and the rest.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And you've got that. You've signed with Don King, but he doesn't have a platform. He doesn't have any way to actually get you out there. And I think he does like literally that one show every 2 years or something.
And he recycles the same fighters every time on the show.
Yeah, they're literally the same fighters. One will fight him, then one will fight someone else, and then the other two just switch over. And yeah, that's literally all it is every show. And you just think to yourself, okay, like you've got other options. You've got much better options than this that will at least, if you say that you want activity, because that's what you said, that I need to be active, I'm in shape, like I can't let things go. Well, you've just picked the worst person to be active with. And Don doesn't play that well with others. So it's not like you're going to get loads of cross-promotional deals and he's just looking out for your best interest. He doesn't play well with others unless, you know, he's the head honcho, and he's not going to be because he has no platform.
No, he's literally, he had that card where Bermain Stavern fought that guy. I can't remember his name, Jonathan something. He's actually ranked by the WBA now, believe it or not. And that was on some obscure platform that we never heard of. It looked pathetic, the arena. And obviously we remember Triumph Trevor Bryan versus Daniel Dubois.
Well, Trevor Bryan fought Goudry the event just before that one.
I don't even think he was back. That's how little we know about these events. And the Dubois event, that just looked sad. And you look at that, you just think, how can anyone look at that and think, yeah, that's the place for me? You know, that's where I'm going to reignite my fire. And Don King has a reputation in absolute, we all know about Don King. How anyone can know, and the way he's so blasé about it, like he's just like, because I remember when they asked about ripping off Tyson, because I love him and it was so fun to rip him off because they had nothing when they came to me and they wanted nothing to rip off. Yeah. You can listen to that and think, yep, I'll sign with him. He's going to look after me.
I mean, that's Adrian. That's what I can say.
He is the gift that keeps on giving, but not in a good way. And at this point, I mean, his last fight, he looked absolutely dreadful. And now, I mean, look at Ilunga Makabu. I mean, ever since he signed with Don King, not he's been inactive. It looks like his career was just gone. He didn't look the same fighter against Badu Jack that he did against Kudryashov or against Seslak.
Yeah.
I don't understand. It's almost like he drained the life force out of him. I know that sounds like weird, but you know what I mean? I'm not using it as a literal sense, but it just seemed like since he signed with him, it's just been like gone.
Yeah, no, one of Makabu's best fights in recent years was the fight against Alexis Papin, which was on the
it was brilliant. That was only kind of yard Perturb or yard Kovalev.
Yeah. So that's when I said, okay, he's actually back, and he was doing good up until some of the others, as we said. And then literally as soon as he kind of got to it was probably the fight just before, was it Maquinho that he fought in the second to last fight? He just started looking sluggish and slow, and you just say to yourself,
was it not Duradola?
No, not Duradola. It's the one that he faced previously. He had a fight of him years back.
Oh, Machunu.
That's it, Tabisi Machunu. That's the one. Yeah, and then that's when you just thought, okay, the drop off is noticeable now, and part of that might be inactivity, but what else is going on as to why you look like this all of a sudden?
Yeah, I remember that Machunu fight, but I put that more down to the fact that he'd fought him before, and the first time around, Machunu was lighting him up until he gassed late. So I kind of thought, okay, Machunu was learned. He's a bit more wily, so hence the reason why it was as competitive as it was. You know, we obviously learned from the first fight. That's kind of what I thought, but obviously not. Obviously, it was more serious than it was originally thought.
Yeah.
It's it's just like Adrian Broner. I mean, he's as if you look at someone, you think you can't do any more. You can't do any more to make life difficult for yourself as a boxer. Well, you've just gone and done it.
Yeah, I mean, like
Amazing.
you said, he's a person when you think he's at his lowest, he digs deeper into the ground.
10 years ago, I don't think I never really was a big fan of Broner even a decade ago, but even before Maidana, if you'd said 10 years later, he'll be fighting with Don King, looking like crap for the best part of 6, 7 years, pretty much he's looked crap since, well, actually, Fiafane, even then he didn't look great. You probably laugh. I'd say, look, I'd expect Broner to lose, but that's even, no, he's not that stupid. Well, yeah. Boy, was I wrong.
Well.
Oh, mate, what do we do? In terms of some of the fights that are coming up, we have a good schedule coming up for the next few weeks, don't we?
Yeah.
Obviously we have, you look at the month of April, I want to say from kind of the 15th straight up until the 6th, and then there's the gap, and then Kay Taylor is in May the 20th. We ain't complaining, especially the 6th and the 7th.
I'm gonna be there at the Zhili Zhang versus Joe Joyce.
It's only up in the copper box.
That's right. I'm looking forward to that one immensely. That's probably the fight I'm looking forward to the most out of all of them at this point, because I feel like, you don't really get a lot of evenly matched fights or like 60-40, a lot of like 75-25, 70-30s, I think. But I feel this is legit 60-40. Like, everything says that Joyce should outwork him and run through him just due to energy, but then everything else tells you that Joyce has never been hit by someone as hard as Zhang's going to hit him. And with the intrigue is, can that chin hold up? And all of that, to me, that's just what's got me. Yeah,
I can't wait. I wish I was going over to that, but just work-wise, that weekend wasn't feasible. So it is what it is. Because I was actually looking to go to that myself, but just work-wise, that wasn't feasible to go over. I was disappointed because I was looking forward to that one. The copper box is that I've been not in it, but I've walked past it, and it looks like a nice little place to go as well.
No, the best thing about the copper box, literally, there is no bad seat. So no matter where you are, you're never actually that far away from the ring. It's quite weird the way it's structured, but you can sit anywhere and have a great view. So just because of that, and you can always kind of get a good atmosphere. Sometimes it's not great, it's on security, but outside of that, I always enjoy when I go to the copper box, and I feel like the atmosphere there is sort of like the perfect setting for that particular fight. So I'll definitely be enjoying that weekend.
Then we have Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis the following weekend, which is a great fight. Looking forward to seeing those two.
I don't know who I'm thinking is going to win that, but at the moment I'm slightly edging towards Tank. But within 2 weeks, I reckon, when I've actually started to break it down and actually look at all the film footage again, I may have a different answer, because something tells me I'm a person, sometimes I trust the energy that someone brings to something, and the fact that Ryan Garcia has had this energy for Tank for like the last 3 years tells me that I feel like he wants it more than Tank does. So that in itself, I have to sometimes look at that force factor, like how much you want it. Does that play a part into what's going to happen, or how much you're going to be able to drag yourself off the canvas if you need to, or how much you're going to be prepared to take in there as opposed to your opponent. So it's one of those ones. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, when I start to break it down, I'll get to a decision.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait for that. I would say April 29th, but probably not going to have it that day. And then obviously Canelo Ryder, followed by Fulton anyway the next day. Literally hours apart.
That's a brilliant double header. And it's on Sky. Sky got that one.
Sky. Yeah, Sky got that one. Fair play.
So yep, I'm looking forward. I'll probably be up I'll be up all night. It might be a difficult weekend, but you make it work.
Yeah, it's got to be a tricky one. It's a watch along / couple of hours sleep back at it.
Yep, definitely.
We also have Taylor versus Cameron, May the 20th. And if it boots one of us, that's not me. It's the StreamYard acting up because it loves doing that. Just giving you the heads up. But obviously, with Katie Taylor, Chantel Cameron, May the 20th. I'm going to try and get to that fight. It's not far from me. So I'm looking forward to that. What are your thoughts on that?
Do you know what? I said this to Ade. You might see it a little later on. I like the fight, but I don't love it. Not at this point. And the reason I don't love it is because I really like both of those fighters. But my issue with this is almost like Katie Taylor's in a no lose win-win situation, because if she wins, undisputed at 140, like legitimate, the greatest woman out there, you can't really argue it. But then if she loses, there's a built-in excuse that, oh well, I went up a weight, it's not my weight class, she's a bigger girl, blah blah blah. Now I know that Chantel Cameron can make 135. She said times that she can still make 135. She just obviously went to 140 for more opportunities, and they was trying to keep the two of them separate. To me, it made more sense for her to come down to 135 and then have all the belts on the line. So a literal all or nothing thing, which that puts jeopardy on both girls, or both women, sorry, and not just one. And even if Chantel wins at 140, she gets the victory, but then there's the built-in excuses. So you get what you wanted, but you don't really essentially from it. Whereas if you're at 135 and everything's on the line, winner take all, that to me, the stakes can't be higher, and it just makes it a much bigger fight. So that's the only reason I don't love the fight. But in terms of a replacement for the Serrano fight, brilliant.
Yeah, I'm happy it's a big event. No, I just wish it would have been in Croke Park. That's the only thing. I'm just wishing, but we can't have it all our own way. GA or horrible company.
In September, so yeah, I saw Conor McGregor on a show with Ariel Helwani the other day. Said that he's going in with Eddie Hearn, and they're going to get that sorted out for later on in the year. So no, still there. I think Gman's been kicked out. Oh, well, can the rest of you still see me? I don't mind talking while he gets himself back sorted. Put in the chat just so I know. Also, gotta mention David Benavidez versus Caleb Plant. I think that's definitely gonna be another good one. Okay, so G's frozen, but it looks like you can still hear me. Cool. Yeah. That one, I definitely think that David Benavidez has got that, to be totally honest. Oh, it looks like G-Man. Is he back? Oh, yep. Well, the main man's back anyway. So. Yeah.
Well, sorry about that.
No worries.
Always, StreamYard is one of the best apps ever. Doesn't bug at all. Mate, what we do one of these days, and I wouldn't mind, but I pay for the full whack on StreamYard. You think you get the best one possible, but no. But in terms of Serrano Taylor, I'm looking forward to that. Oh, sorry, that's Serrano Taylor. In terms of Cameron Taylor, I'm looking forward to that one. Seeing a big event here in Ireland. Looking forward to seeing who Gary Cully is going to be fighting on the undercard. That's going to be good because I rate Gary Cully very highly. Might be doing something with him over the coming week or so. Maybe potentially doing an interview with him potentially. I think he's a cool guy, and I think he's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, no, I definitely think he's got a high ceiling. I'm looking forward to his next fight, and I just want to see sort of how he steps up and progresses.
I like about Gary Cully is I've seen so much progression over the years. I remember when he was fighting on Frank Warren shows, and he was slapping so much with his shots. It's one of the reasons why he didn't have as many knockouts when he was starting. Okay. You see the punch technique that he throws now, it's night and day. He really gets a lot of power in that left hand. I think that 6'2" lightweight, if it's a southpaw with good punching power, that is a problem.
Yeah, I mean it's a big combination. It's he's basically the lightweight version of Stephen Fundora at this point. So
It's going to be interesting to see who they get him in there with, because he's past the level that he's been fighting. I mean, that was apparent last fight, much less the one before.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I haven't seen as much of him as obviously you have, but I've seen, I think, his last 4 fights, and I've been impressed with all of them. But again, like you say, I don't feel like there was the greatest resistance in his opponents. So
no, I think the Miguel Vargas win is aged better, because apparently he was horribly robbed over in Germany in one of his last fights.
okay,
So I think it was I think I even seen Gary Cully tweeting about it himself, actually saying it was a horrible robbery. So the fact that he's still useful, and getting, well, he's been robbed a few times, shows that fact that Gary Cully didn't lay a glove on him.
Okay.
Again, styles make fights, of course, you have to take that, but still, it's a good look.
I think I'll have to go back and have a little review of that Germany card. I'll see if I can find it on the app that I use,
which I need a link to, because you seem to get the fights.
It's the same one I sent you before. They just update it every time, but I'll send you an updated version.
Perfect, because I had a nightmare trying to get the was the Brandon Figueroa fight. I had a nightmare trying to find that fight. It was like, please, someone get me this fight, because I heard it was so good, and I was like, can't find it anywhere. It was Top Rank.
So, have you seen it now?
I've seen it now. It was a great fight. But PBC don't play around when it comes to putting stuff up online and stuff like that. They're still the only crowd who've ever copyrighted a video, even though it had no footage in it. That's how serious they are. Yeah, they copyrighted a Wilder Brazil post fight. They gave me a strike, not even a claim, a strike. And that was back obviously 4 years ago nearly, but they were like, no footage in the first. Like, there's no footage. There's literally no footage of it, but no, they went playing around.
Okay. Well, no, don't worry. I'll send you back that link.
Thank you, mate. In terms of everything else, like, I will have to go in a wee bit. I have to surprise my friend to pick him up later, but we have to do this again, because it's been good fun, man. Those 45 minutes just flew in, and I just wish we could get more time to talk more topics, because there's loads of things I think we could talk about on here. But before we wrap it up, do you want to just give your channel one last plug? I'll see when I was making sure, like, when I was looking at your channel, putting this in here, it was like 770. Let's hope it's gone up by then, because your channel is pinned in the description. There you go, 780. I played a small part. I'd like to see even a little bit.
Every little bit helps. I appreciate it. No, this has been great. I love doing these exchanges with you, with Ade, with Chris, Joe Habib and the Round Table in America, Maestro, like Undefeated podcast, which I'm also a part of, 1/5 of the Undefeated podcast. So yeah, I enjoy all of it. My channel is Base the Kid, the Hardcore Casual. As you can kind of see in my name there, it is pinned in the link. Probably be pinned in the description of the video as well. Just come over, have a look. I know Gman's plugged me a few times, so thank you for that. If you like it, stick around. If you don't, you can tell me to piss off and you can leave. I don't mind. But every view helps.
I think what you'll find is they will subscribe, they will like it, or they won't like it, but they won't leave. They'll just keep telling you, I don't like this. It's like, that's good to know, isn't it? But you're still watching, so thank you.
That's the main thing. Whatever you say, as long as I get the view.
Yeah, like, you don't like, that's good to know. Well, you still clicked on it, so thanks for that. I appreciate that. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Of course, we will hopefully have you on soon enough. Obviously, time-wise, not the easiest, but we'll make time. I enjoyed this. So, lads, I'll leave it with that. Base, any closing thoughts?
No, again, just thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to coming back again. I remember the first time me and you met was on Ade's channel. I
remember that, actually.
Yep, I think it was episode 4.
It was summer 2020, wasn't it? It was actually, I remember it because that was the day Miller failed the drugs test, because that happened off air. Remember that?
Yes, I do remember
that.
I do. So yeah, how time flies, and
it's crazy.
Look where you are, and look what I'm about to get to. So
there you go, man.
And things happen when they're supposed to. So thank you very much.
Everything at the right time.
Thank you.
Peace, lads. Base, man. Appreciate that so much. That was good fun.